Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Saturday, May the 21st, and welcome to our commentary. Normally, Saturdays are supposed to be the day off, kind of the first day of the weekend, as they say. Not much is happening. Everybody's at home, not usually the second tier or the second or the bench people are in the newsroom because the big stars are at home taking the weekend off. Not this weekend. There's a lot of stuff going on this Saturday. In fact, there's so much going on. I wanted to do a quick show today and talk a little bit about it because three big stories that I think we're going to be hearing about for quite some time are either breaking or they are growing on this Saturday morning. Let's begin. Let's begin with a federal judge who basically is blocking the Biden's administration interest in Title 42. For those of you who may not remember, Title 42, I'm not exactly sure where that title, what specific statute or law it comes from. I think it comes from probably a health or some kind of a law that was written many years ago in terms of a pandemic or something like that. And it was implemented or put in place or activated, if that's the right word, President Trump to keep people in large groups of people away, I should say, during the pandemic on the border. And the Biden administration was threatening to end it, meaning that Title 42 would no longer be used to control the people flow at the border. The judge said, no, you got to keep it in place. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know how long the judge can do that because there may be a way for the Biden administration to maybe go to the Supreme Court or simply say, this is the law of the land, and we have, as president, I have the authority to put it back on. So I don't know that constitutionality of it. I don't know. But for the moment, Title 42 will not be will not be removed and will continue to be in place. Now, if I'm in the White House and I'm the political team in the White House and I'm a political consultant to the Biden administration, I would be applauding this Louisiana federal who made this decision. Because what this judge has done, he has actually saved the Biden administration from having to deal with the crisis that eliminating Title 42 would have created. This opposition to eliminating Title 42 is not just a Republican thing. It's not just Republicans who are opposed to this. There's a bunch of Democrat senators, particularly senators for reelection in 2022, like in Arizona, New Mexico, and so on, who are simply saying, no, 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 this is not the time to remove it because they see for themselves what is happening on the border. If you talk to any elected official down on the border, Democrat elected official here in Texas down on the border, they're all saying the same thing. Wait a minute, let's count to 10 before we end this thing. So for the time being, Title 42 will remain. The judge's decision was made on, I guess it was Friday evening. And we're going to be talking in more detail about this with George Rodriguez when we do a special video with him on Sunday night. So catch that video coming up on Sunday night. But for the time being, Title 42 is still in force, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing because all these people are lining up, getting ready to come to the United States. And that's, at this time, not a very smart thing to do. Not when the country may be looking at a recession here in the next 6 to 12 months. That's not frankly, to open borders. The second big story, and I think this one is huge, is that the Archbishop of San Francisco has basically told Speaker Nancy Pelosi that she's not going to get communion anymore as long as she keeps representing such a radical abortion policy. For those of us who have been watching the Democrat Party talk abortion for let's say the last 30 years, I remember during the Clinton administration, Bill Clinton's administration, where his position about abortion was, okay, a woman should have access to an abortion, but it should be safe and it should be rare. But that's, not the position of the Democrat Party today. The Democrat Party has become very, very radical, frankly, when it comes to abortion. And when I say radical, radical compared to most countries around the world have an abortion. In other words, you can have an abortion in 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 15 weeks, but not the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party basically says it's up to the woman, and she decides at whatever time she wants to have an abortion. Now, realistically, there aren't that many abortions, in the last 3 months of a pregnancy. I know that. But the Democrats believe that if a woman wants to have an abortion at that stage of the pregnancy, she should have it. And technically, Roe v. Wade more or less says that, because Roe v. Wade was written 50 years ago, before all of the technology came about, where we can hear the heartbeat, we can see images of something that looks a lot like a human inside the woman's body. So the church, and I am so glad that they're doing this, the Archbishop of San Francisco is saying to Speaker Pelosi, if you're be in favor of this type of radical abortion policy, then you're not a good Catholic. And you know what? I am very happy as a Catholic. I am very happy to see that the bishops in this state, and I guess other bishops are doing the same thing, and pretty soon they have to do it to President Biden. You cannot be a Catholic and maintain the kind of radical abortion position that President Biden and now Speaker Pelosi have. Once upon a time, they didn't have that policy. In fact, once upon a time, when it was politically convenient for Joe Biden to be a lot more moderate when it came to abortion, he didn't believe these things. The position that he has on abortion now is relatively recent. This is not the Biden that many of us remember 10, 15, 20 years ago, when he was actually a pro-life Democrat. I mean, we remember that. Just look at the videos in YouTube and you'll see what I'm talking about. But the position that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat Party have with respect to abortion is absolutely extreme. And as far as the bishops, I agree with them that they should draw the line and say to Mrs. Pelosi, if that's what you believe, if that's what you defend, then you're not going to get communion. I'm happy, very happy that this is happening finally happening. Well, the other big story of this Saturday and this weekend, this is the one that I believe is going to be huge over the next few weeks. Well, it turns out that maybe Hillary Clinton did know what her campaign was doing, setting up all those lies about the Donald Trump and the German bank and the Russia hoax and all that kind of stuff. Turns out that maybe she was actually aware of all of this. Allegation is one of her senior campaign people said so at the trial on Thursday or Friday. And this is a big story. This is a big story because this is one of the greatest scandals of American political history. This is a scandal where a campaign was using the FBI, lying to the FBI to spy on another campaign. This is serious, and some people are going to go to jail here. Now, whether Hillary Clinton goes to jail, it would be nice, but she may be protected a little bit by simply saying, well, I didn't actually say yes, or, she may hang her defense on something like that. But what is now clear, and more clear than ever, is that when Donald Trump said that this was a hoax, and that this whole thing was a lie, and that for a couple of years, Donald Trump was investigated, and there were lots and lots of articles written about him and a Russia connection, the whole thing was a lie. The whole thing was a lie. Now, you do have to ask yourself the question, why did the media go along with it? I can certainly understand Democrats, wanting to do a dirty trick. That's politics. You can understand that to a point. But it still amazes me that more reporters were not more cynical about the story, or more reporters were not more willing to show some of the curiosity that they always show with respect to this story. The reality is that a lot of these stories were written at the New York Times, at the Washington Post, Time Magazine, NBC, and a lot of these stories were not supported by fact. They were supported by anonymous sources who were telling the reporter this or this or this or that. All of it turned out to be false. Maybe one of these reporters will go on TV and apologize to the listeners, to the viewers, to the readers, because there was a lot of lying going on under the name of reporting about this particular story. So I think this is going to be a big story this summer as we get into the summer, because this trial is just beginning. The prosecutor, John Durham, looks like a pretty capable guy. A lot of us didn't know or couldn't, we were wondering, why is he taking so long? Well, I think we're beginning to realize why he took so long. He had to put a very complicated case together, and I think he's put it together. And I think what's going to happen now is that a lot of the Hillary Clinton people are going to start falling apart. They're going to start falling apart and basically saying, I'm not going to go to jail to protect Hillary Clinton. And that's when this whole story, I think, will explode. And we will get to the bottom of what I think was a very dirty political scandal. So keep an eye on this story this particular summer. Well, one of my favorite on this day in history stories, if I may put it that way, is Charles Lindbergh, the Spirit of St. Louis, and that flight that he took to Paris. It happened today in 1927. He actually took off on May 20th, which would have been yesterday. He flew overnight and he landed in Paris on this day in 1927. And of course, he became an international hero. And if you've ever seen that movie by Jimmy Stewart, The Spirit of St. Louis, what a fantastic movie it is. And that's what the story is. You ought to watch it. I love that movie whenever it comes on. But I got to tell you something. This is one of the really amazing stories of the 20th century, because it really shows the strength of a man. I mean, Charles Lindbergh, I know that later he became a controversial fellow for a lot of different things, and I'm not defending what he did later in life. But clearly on this day in 1927, he was a man with tremendous commitment, tremendous ability when he flew that little plane over the Atlantic all by himself out there in the ocean. Probably he was the only one willing to do it because it was a high-risk operation. And yet he did it. He landed in Paris, and the rest is history. So this is why it's one of my favorite stories, because it's not just about Charles Lindbergh, the man. It's about his character in that little aircraft flying over the Atlantic. That must have been quite an experience, to say the least. Have a good Saturday night. Happy Sunday. And we'll talk to you again the next time with our good friend George Rodriguez. We'll talk from South Texas, and we're going to talk more about Title 42. And we're also going to get an update on what should be the most interesting runoff election in Texas, down in South Texas, between Jessica Cisneros, Democrat, and Henry Cuellar, Democrat. That's really a battle for the soul of the Democrat Party. So we'll talk to George about that. Good night, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later.